Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome into a post-game live reaction show. I am not usually the person that is doing the Broncos post-game shows. I'm filling in for Chad and his wonderful wife. They do a wonderful job covering these post-game shows. But today you get me. You get Liv Moods. I'm normally doing post-game shows for the Denver Nuggets, but as you guys know, I also covered the Denver Broncos, and what a wild ride it has been to cover this team, to talk about this team, to watch this team. And today was like any other Sunday watching the Denver Broncos, right? You had a muffed punt, you had a blocked field goal, you had an interception, you had penalties. The Broncos being one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. Always feels like there are self-inflicted wounds standing in the way of the Denver Broncos being as great as they could be, right? And I think as we were watching this game unfold, I can't speak for everybody, but I can certainly speak for myself. As I was watching this game unfold, I'm sitting there going, yeah, this is a classic Denver Broncos game. There's a lot of self-inflicted wounds. We're not playing super well. Bo Nix not really being the Bo Nix we know he can be. That's not necessarily to say that we were doubting him, but we were certainly watching the game going, okay, just another typical Broncos win or loss, where they could have won comfortably, but certain things stand in their way. That being said, this is one of those Broncos teams, and I jokingly tweeted about it a couple weeks ago, maybe. I can't keep up with the weeks because I think we've all been riding an emotional high with this team. But I tweeted a couple weeks ago, and I said, Bo Nix is the type of quarterback you can't tweet about, because I think it's so easy as sports fans to get on Twitter these days, or X, whatever you call it, and start rattling off your thoughts and your hot takes and your opinions. And I said, Bo Nix is not the type of quarterback that you can form an opinion on until the game is over. And here we are yet again, where Bo Nix made some huge plays, came in pretty clutch for this Broncos team. Of course, I don't need to say much about the defense. The defense is the defense. They have been carrying the load of this team throughout the season so far. But they do say defense wins championships for a very good reason. Defense is truly mandatory, and elite level defense is truly mandatory to be a contender. And we know that the Denver Broncos have that. I don't think any of us have ever questioned the level of defense and whether or not the defense is enough for this team. It absolutely is. The offense has always been what's in question. And so you watch this Broncos team today, and we can kind of go through it and look at it from a larger scale. We don't need to get into the nitty-gritties of everything, but you watch this Broncos team fail to score any points in the first quarter, which is typical Denver Broncos fashion, right? Where you don't get a whole lot of them to begin the game. And you're kind of sitting there going, yeah, this is what I expected today, right? Then you get a score from them in the second quarter, which was wonderful. I believe by Cortland Sutton, we know to be one of Bo Nix's most reliable targets this season. Third quarter, 0 points. Yet again, you're like, oh God, just when you start to get comfortable. However, this Texans team, 3 points, a field goal in the first quarter, 9 points in the second quarter, 3 in the third quarter. So they found a way to score in every quarter but the fourth. Now the Broncos, 11 points scored in the fourth quarter. This seems to be their thing, their mojo, their image is fourth quarter performance. Now, as a Broncos fan, and I'm going to put this on the screen, Liv, I know Liv be stressed. Yes. Aren't we all stressed watching this damn football team? My God, as much as I love them, and I do, I love the Denver Broncos so stinking much. I'm sitting there like, guys, are we kidding? But I'm starting to think now, I think in the first few games where we saw them really light things up in the fourth quarter, following those games, it was like, okay, no, we are not good enough to be doing that. We can't just wait until the fourth quarter. But it really does kind of seem to be their strategy. It seems to be their thing. They kind of play it safe in those first few quarters. They kind of get some of the mistakes out of the way. And what I want to talk about really quickly when it comes to Bo Nix, you could name a lot of different things that Bo Nix could potentially improve upon, or weaknesses that he may have. But one of the things that I think we don't talk about enough with a quarterback like Bo Nix's ability to be able to come back in the ways that he does in the fourth quarter and to be so clutch in the fourth quarter. Now, this was actually a fourth quarter where I didn't feel as confident in Bo Nix just because there were a couple close calls there, right? Like there were a couple times I was like, that should have been an interception, and he's really lucky it wasn't. So maybe he wasn't as clutch as he's typically been in the fourth quarter. However, what I want to talk about with him that I don't think people stop, do not make jokes like that, please. Because guys, just so we're aware, I will believe you. Okay, because here's a little funny story about that, Ramiro. It's really actually not funny at all because we had a very large wolf spider in our home not too long ago. And you better believe I got on the phone with our little pest control people immediately. And I said, hey, so how quick can you get to this home before I literally burn it to the ground? So let's not do that today. Love you so much. What we don't talk about enough with a quarterback like Bo Nix, though, is his ability to keep his composure, right? He throws an interception very early. He did the same thing versus the Dallas Cowboys, where you're like, oh, God, not this again. Here we go. And a lot of quarterbacks would crumble. They would crumble. They would have something like that happen early in the first quarter or early in the game and let it affect their performance throughout the remainder of the game. Bo Nix is not that type of guy, and that's something I don't see enough people talking about. You know, I think there's still a lot of people that are feeling like Bo Nix isn't proven. He's not yet to that point where they can feel like he's reliable. They can trust him to go all the way. I think Broncos fans that get to watch Bo Nix every single weekend can actually admire and appreciate his composure that he's able to keep every single quarter, regardless of what's happening. You know, Bo Nix is not a perfect quarterback. There are always going to be overthrown passes. There's always going to be underthrown passes. You know, there's going to be an interception or two. But when he needs to truly win a football game, you see a different version of Bo Nix. You see him get a little bit more mobile. You see him really composed throughout those 3 quarters leading up to that fourth. And that's why he's able to do what he does in the fourth quarter. Most quarterbacks would be rattled by that point, and then it's done. He's very, very smart. He's very, very poised. He keeps his composure very, very well. And I think that's something I don't see enough national media heads discussing when they talk about Bo Nix. You know, I watched a media thing of them talking about like the good teams right now, basically based on record, right? Like this is a Broncos team that's now 7-2. So they're in a really, really good spot. They're first in the AFC West. And I was watching these people talk about every other team that has around the same record or even a worse record, and speaking about those teams as contenders. Not one time did they mention the Denver Broncos, which is very interesting to me because they're first in arguably the most competitive division, which is the AFC West. They have a great and very smart head coach, despite me disagreeing with his play calling ability. He's a very good coach. They've got a quarterback that's proven to be exceptionally clutch, especially with time expiring in the fourth quarter. Not sure what more you could ask for there. And you've got an elite level defense. So it's very confusing to me when I watch these national media heads talking about the Denver Broncos and not really viewing them as a contender. Now, I can also understand it, right? I think if you're a member of Broncos country and you've been watching this team and you've been losing sleep over this team, crying over this team, laughing hysterically over this team, you know, all the emotions you could possibly, I think we go through the 7 stages of grief being Broncos fans. Let's be realistic for a moment. So I understand why people may not be all the way there yet with the Denver Broncos. I understand why people may not be convinced just yet, but to not even talk about this team like they're a contender feels frankly disrespectful, honestly. You know, you look at what it takes to be a contending team, right? And let's talk about that. A good head coach. I don't like Sean Payton's play calling, but I'm never going to call him a bad head coach. That would just be foolish. He's a good head coach, right? You've got a reliable quarterback, not a perfect one, but he has proven to you how many different times now that when the game is on the line, when the Broncos are trailing, he knows how to get involved and make big plays. What more could you ask for? Okay. So you've got a reliable, maybe not a consistent quarterback, but he has proven to be reliable, a good, super athletic, and at times very reliable quarterback in Bo Nix. You've got an elite championship level defense. You have arguably one of the best, if not the best, pass rush duo in Cooper and Benito. I'm struggling to try to figure out why these national media heads aren't discussing the Denver Broncos like they're contenders. Because if you look at the checklist, they have everything it takes. Now, this was a very important game because despite their 5-game win streak, the Denver Broncos were not the favorites going into this game. They were not. They were actually the underdogs by about 2 points. So virtual pick them if you want to talk in betting terms. But truly, they were not the favorites, which is interesting considering they were on a 5-game win streak. And you watched the domination that they were able to deal the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I think the reason that we obviously know that there was some doubt going into this game is you had an injury to PS2, the best cornerback in the league, last year's defensive player of the year. Okay, he goes out. He's on injury reserve right now. What they said, 4 to 6 weeks. We all knew as Broncos fans that that was a huge loss, right? Like that felt like a gut punch. I was like, oh God, I hate that. That's probably my least favorite player to go down with an injury is PS2. Okay. So you've got PS2 out, Marvin Mims, who at times can be a big playmaker for this Broncos offense. He's out. And so I understand the doubt going into this game, but what I really think people continuously are doubting is this offense, this Broncos offense. We know what the Broncos defense is going to give you week to week to week, right? We just know that they are. But we also know that this offense on the other side of things can be the group that has got the self-inflicted wounds that, is putting themselves at jeopardy with all of the penalties. Today, you had a blocked field goal. You had a muffed punt. You had an interception. You had penalty after penalty after penalty, right? We're used to these things with this offense. But I don't think that those things, because those are things that all teams have to deal with on any given Sunday, I don't think those teams are enough to discredit what this Broncos team is capable of as a whole. I think now that we've seen it, 6th game in a row, right? 6th straight win for the Denver Broncos. Pretty sure that's a record. It's best this year. I know the Patriots were at 5 as well. I didn't even pay attention to another single game today, if we're being honest. I was so, I was very, very committed to watching this Broncos team and trying not to freak out. Okay, the Patriots won by 1. So the Patriots and the Broncos are in the same boat, right? 6 straight wins for both of these teams. So you have to acknowledge that a little tiny little bit and understand that that's not a stroke of luck, guys. It's not. It's really not. And a game like today, big, big win for this team, considering they had some valuable players out and missing. And I want to talk a little bit for one moment about the CJ Stroud injury. I took to Twitter and I said, ooh, that looks nasty. Not nasty as in dirty, nasty as in ouch, painful. That looked like it was really, really painful. But I want to really quickly say something that I think there's probably a lot of people out there that can also feel that also feel the same way with me in this, which is we got to get rid of the QB slide. We have to get rid of it. I truly believe if the league values protecting quarterbacks as much as I know that they do, because we've actually let the game get a little soft in doing so, in protecting quarterbacks. There's a couple roughing the passer plays out there, or roughing the passer calls that I'm like, come on. You can't even blow on these guys. Like, they're like dandelions. They'll blow away if you blow on them, because that's how we've kind of catered the game around these quarterbacks, which is fine. That's neither here nor there. If the league truly cares about protecting quarterbacks as much as I know that they do, the quarterback slide is just bad. I actually think that should be a penalty on the quarterback, and I'm going to tell you why. In today's game specifically, it did look like a really brutal hit, and I'm sure it was. I mean, CJ Stroud, now in concussion protocol, I would imagine, hit his head pretty good. There's a certain level of, physics involved here, where when you are in a split second, you've already committed to what you're doing. Gravity is also helping you in doing so. You've got momentum as a defender. You've already committed to it, and you get a late game slide. There is unless you're a magician, unless you have Houdini magic, you cannot stop the momentum that you've got going that direction. You just can't. Now, there are some roughing the passer plays or unnecessary roughness or what have you that does look very intentional, and you can see that. Today, it felt very, very unintentional. It did not look like a dirty play to me. It looked very legal, actually. But in a last-second decision for CJ Stroud to slide like that, you can't expect these defenders to, on a dime, completely change their momentum and morph their body around protecting this quarterback. The quarterback slide, to me, we've watched it time and time again. We see it with Tua. We saw it with Trevor Lawrence. We saw it today with CJ Stroud. It's just, to me, a reckless play. It is. It's kind of one of those, I don't know. When it comes to those late slides, and then you've got a defense that's potentially getting penalized, to me, it's one of those, this is going to sound bad, and I'm not saying this in regards to CJ Stroud, but it feels like one of those, F around and find out things like that. A defender that is using all of his speed and momentum to tackle you because 1 second you're upright and the next second you're leaning back. I just don't think it's fair for these defenders to be penalized for something that they simply can't control. There is a difference between, and CJ Stroud, by the way, very, very smart quarterback. And I'm wishing him a quick recovery. I'm a huge CJ Stroud fan. I really am. And I always have been. So I hate seeing stuff like that. I don't enjoy it. It definitely made me a little like, oh God, that looked painful. Like I really, really hate seeing that stuff. But I just don't want defenders to feel like they can't play the game or do their job because they're worried that they're going to be penalized for something that they can't control. So I think the quarterback slide to me just needs to be eliminated altogether. If the league truly cares about the safety of the quarterbacks, they would make this a priority. I think if anything, that should be a penalty on the quarterback. Don't put yourself in harm's way like that. We have seen it too many times now where quarterbacks get honestly knocked out. We've seen it with Tua. We've seen it with Trevor Lawrence. We've seen it with CJ Stroud, that it just shouldn't be allowed anymore. These defenders are big, grown men. They're strong, they're fast, and they're moving with all of their might and momentum. And you decide, and they've already committed to that. They've committed to whatever they've decided to do, right? They've committed to that play. And then you decide to slide late. It's like, I just think it's a really, really tough thing. So I am praying and sending all of my best to CJ Stroud because I'm a huge fan of his. I really thoroughly enjoyed watching him his rookie season. He had that sophomore slump. I was never worried about it. I'm like, he's too good of a guy. He's too good of a quarterback. He's a great leader. I really like the only CJ Stroud moment I've ever not liked was his little moment with Caleb Williams. I'm like, I don't think any of these grown men want to be told what to do, how to do it by a second year player. Like maybe not the best idea here. Outside of that, I really, really love CJ Stroud. So it was a hit that looked pretty bad. I'm praying for him. I'm hoping he's doing okay, but I just think quarterback slides are a risky game, and I just don't think it's worth it. I really don't. So I wouldn't be shocked if in the coming seasons there's some rules implementing or not banning, but putting a little bit of protection on the defenders now for the QB slide, because to be penalized like that, I mean, imagine you're in a playoff game and the game's on the line. And something like that is completely out of the defender's control happens and it costs you the game. It's eventually going to become a problem. So I just think do away with the quarterback slide. I just don't like it. I'm going to look at some of your guys' comments here. Obviously, big win. If you're just now joining, I am Liv Moods. I'm filling in for Chad today and his wonderful wife. They do a wonderful job of covering our Denver Broncos post-game shows. I'm just filling in for today. Lots to discuss. I have been on this journey with all of you, although I haven't been doing these post-game shows. I have been in the same boat as most members of Broncos country, which is I don't know how to feel most Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays, right? We've got a Thursday night football game coming up here pretty soon versus the Raiders, I believe, a division game. The Broncos right now sitting at the top of the AFC West. And I just did do a little peep ski, guys, because of course I have to. The Bills right now are up by a touchdown versus the Chiefs with about 4 minutes remaining in the first quarter. As a Broncos fan, I would love to see the Chiefs lose today. It would be wonderful. The Chargers, obviously, another threat in the AFC West. I'm not as worried. I don't think many of us are worried if you're in the AFC West about the Raiders. That being said, we've seen crazier things happen in a division game. So this Thursday night football game is not something we should obviously take lightly. But I think it's important, even though there's so many things you can look at this game and say they need to be fixed or whatever the case. You can look at a million different things and say, we could probably tighten up here. The penalties are a problem, all the things. Let's also take a moment and just be really effing excited about this Broncos team being on a 6-game win streak. I mean, come on. Like, it's a really, really stinking good feeling. It's really, really exciting. There's a lot to be really, really pumped about if you're a Broncos fan, because again, I think in those first few games, it was like, the Giants game. Was that luck? Was that Demaryius Thomas from above the clouds? I mean, there's a lot of things I think still I'm trying to recover from that game. I was at that game. I was in Empower Field, and I'm still trying to figure out what was that? What version of the Broncos was that? Okay. But I think now we've seen more than once that this really is a skilled football team. It takes skill to come back in a game that you're trailing in and win in the fourth quarter. That is not luck. We're not at luck anymore, guys. This is a 6-game win streak. This is really who this Broncos team is. This is their identity. The moment you want to count them out, they are back in that game. And it's a really, really cool thing. It's honestly their superpower this year. It is. Because I think naturally, if you're up in a game or you're watching your defense do a really great job versus this Broncos offense, or you're just watching this Broncos offense have 1,000,001 self-inflicted wounds, you're kind of sitting there going, we're okay, we're good. You know, you let your guard down for half a second with this Broncos team, and they're right back to win a game. So they're not just staying alive in these games, because frankly, they're actually not staying alive through these games, but they are winning them when it really matters. They're finding a way. Like I said, these media heads nationally are not giving Bo Nix enough credit for his ability to keep his composure and come back when trailing and be clutch when he needs to be clutch. I mean, we watched in the very final seconds of this game, Bo Nix got mobile. He got in field goal range. He made it happen. And that's what he's been doing now time and time and time again. I just think you can't call it luck anymore, because this is truly who they are. And does it make me feel great? No. Gosh, I would love a world in which we win comfortably and we don't have to worry about a thing, and we are just kicking back, lifting our feet up on the coffee table and just going, woo. And honestly, last weekend, that's kind of how that game felt. You know, it was belt to ASS, you know what I mean, against the Cowboys. It was. And I was just like, wow, like I could go do some chores right now and have the Broncos game in the background. I'm not stressed at all. But we rarely see that with this Broncos team. And you know that, and I know that. We rarely see that with this Broncos team. What we typically see with this Broncos team is panic mode, time to panic. And so, yeah, we're more familiar with that than we are with the comfortable and comfortable and easy wins. It's usually a little too close for comfort, and we're watching this team battle back to get into a game. So I'm going to look through some of these comments really quick, and then we'll just keep these conversations going for a little longer. The Broncos are going to be 8-2 after the Raiders game. My goodness, I hope so, right? That would be a really unfortunate loss there, because I mean, if you're looking at these two teams and the 2 seasons that they've had so far, the Broncos have no business losing to this team. And now, to kind of play devil's advocate here, I will say, these division games, man, you just never know what you're going to get. You just never know. I feel like in all of the football I've watched and covered and taken notes on and talked about. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of like a little sweaty. It's a little hot in this house. Or maybe it's just every time the Broncos play, my body temperature is up by like 20 degrees. I think that's what it is. But these division games, man, you know, I don't want to feel comfortable at all going into this Thursday night football game. I actually believe I'm going to that game to get some content. So I'm going to be there. And honestly, you know, riding a 6-game win streak is fun and all, but you know what everyone says? It's got to end at some point, right? That's what people say. Oh, you're winning. You've got 6-game win streak. Surely it'll end soon. So I'm not going to go into that feeling super comfortable. Confident? Yeah, of course. I think this Broncos team has allowed me now to feel pretty confident in their skill set. But all that to say, it's a division game, and those ones are typically tough, especially a primetime game, and especially one that is on Thursday night. What is it with these Thursday night games? What is it? What is it? I don't get it. These games are always cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They never make sense to me. And so I'm not going to go into it feeling any type of way besides Broncos, just do your job. Just keep doing what you're doing and just don't stop anytime soon. Okay. Oh, thank you. I don't know if this person is tuning in. JDabs87 on X says your post-game breakdowns are always elite. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. Really, really do appreciate it. I saw another comment that I want to get into really quick. Okay, guys? It's this one. I took to my X account, I don't know how long ago, and I talked about the play calling. And it ruffled a lot of feathers, actually. There was a social clip from my show, Mood Swings, which airs 4 p.m. Mountain Time, both Mondays and Fridays. So we will have one again tomorrow. But I talked on that show a little bit about the play calling and how I felt like Sean Payton needed to give it up. And people did not like that comment by me. You know, that was out of line by me. And I just don't know why that was out of line. As much as I love Sean Payton, and I think he's a wonderful, very intelligent, and very successful head coach, the play calling to me is not really his thing. And what I said in the clip was that his play calling is unpredictable. And a lot of the comments were like, duh, it's supposed to be. Okay, yes. However, his play calling shouldn't be unpredictable to his players. Okay. Are you guys understanding what I'm saying here? His play calling should be unpredictable to opposing defenses, maybe. But I don't even think it makes sense half the time to his own team. And when there's a disconnect, especially between quarterback and head coach, you're not going to be able to convince me that I'm supposed to like have faith in this system. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's just me being a Debbie Downer, but I am going to it's going to be really hard to convince me that I should have faith in a system where the quarterback and the coach are not seeing the same things or on the same page. Like that's hard for me. So today there was a very specific example. I remember it very, very clearly. It was, of course, an incomplete pass. It was a little toss. It wasn't even a pass, okay? It was a toss. 3rd and 10, horizontal toss to Bo's left. Let me break this down for you. You don't even have to understand football. I don't even have to get into the terminology of the screen plays, the run screen. I don't even have to do that. I don't. What I can say to you is this. Let me break this down on an elementary level. We don't even have to get into the formalities of it or the technicalities of it. Let me see if this clicks. You're not going to be able to go for it on 4th down because that would actually be just unintelligent. 3rd and 10. You've got to gain 10 yards. For the people that don't know football at all, I'm pretty sure you're going to get this one right. You've got to gain 10 yards vertically. What would you do on 3rd and 10 if you've got to gain 10 yards vertically and you're not going to go for it on 4th down? So you've got one more chance to get a 1st down and you've got 10 yards that you've got to gain. The field is vertical. What would you do? Would you toss it horizontally or would you play vertical football? So, to be honest with you, guys, it does not take, and that's the other funny part. There's a lot of, oh God, here we go. I don't even need to bring it up, but the misogyny, there was a heavy amount of that in that comment section of the video, me saying that Sean Payton shouldn't play call anymore. And what's very interesting about that is, a lot of people are like, oh, this woman, why is she talking about a man's sport? Because women are smart, very smart. If you're married, you know that. I don't need to tell you that, okay? This is not news to you if you're in a healthy, happy marriage, okay? Women are very smart. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out that this play calling just frankly doesn't make sense. I know it's a lot easier to admit that I shouldn't have a microphone in front of my mouth discussing a male sport, but the reality is nothing that I said was incorrect, and it's kind of common sense. 3rd and 10, you're not in a position to be able to go for it on 4th down. You've got to gain 10 yards to get a 1st down. You're trailing in the game, and you throw horizontal. No, you don't even throw horizontal. You toss horizontally. So much so that it's an incomplete pass. 0 yards gained. Why are we playing horizontal? You don't have to have played football to know that that does not effing make sense. Period. So the play calling to me is still problematic. It's unpredictable, but not in the right ways. It's not unpredictable to opposing defenses where they're like, ooh, we don't know what's next. Ooh, what's it gonna be, Broncos? No. It's not that. Unfortunately, it is not that. It is unpredictable, I think, even to the players playing offense for the Broncos. What are we doing, Sean? That doesn't make any sense, Sean. Why are we playing horizontally, Sean? I mean, it's a little OD on the screenplays, actually. It is. And it actually has been all season long. So as much as I love this heroic football we're playing in the 4th quarter, a lot of the heroics that we have to play in order to win these football games really, in my opinion, could be prevented. And maybe I'm wrong in that, but this is a team to me. And Bo Nix is the type of quarterback, we see it week after week after week. The 4th quarter, when we're down and time is expiring and Sean Payton is forced to stop being cute and creative and just let the boys ball, we're forced in those moments to see what Bo Nix is capable of. And just about every time we see that, I like what I see. I like Bo Nix in those moments where he has to be clutch. I like Bo Nix in those moments where he has to be athletic and get mobile and make big plays. Because when Sean Payton takes the leash off his neck, he's the best quarterback. He's the best version of himself as a quarterback for the Denver Broncos. So, no, you're not going to be able to convince me. I don't care if you don't think I should be talking about a man's sport. And guys, I'm just referencing the comment section because it was a little psychotic, actually, the way these people were talking. I had one guy and I finally said to him, I shot him a little message back. I said, hey, dude, the misogynistic comments, I'm here for them, honestly, because I love my life and they don't affect me one way or the other. I still go to sleep in my beautiful home, and I still love my life. Like your comment doesn't really do a whole lot to me. I got to be honest here. But if you're going to do it, at least get creative or at least make me laugh, right? Like I always say, like, pick a struggle. You can only have one. So if you're going to be rude, at least be funny. He did the classic. You guys already know where this is going. The classic, like, go make me a sandwich. I was like, really? Can we leave that in 08, please? And thank you. Can we come up with something else? At least make me chuckle if you're going to be a total, I'm not going to use foul language, but fill in the blank with whatever word you want to fill it in with. I'm just saying, at least make me laugh, right? But that's neither here nor there. The reality is this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, okay, to understand that the play calling a lot of times just doesn't make sense. That's it. It just doesn't make sense. And what it looks like to me is a lot of the time, Sean Payton forgets who Bo Nix is. I mean, for God's sake, Sean, play to his strengths. Again, common sense. That doesn't feel like you really need to have had to have played the game to understand that. Like, I watch Bo Nix every single time he takes the field. I'm just as locked in as any other person in Broncos country watching these football games. And probably more so because I'm taking notes the entire time so I can sit and discuss it with you guys after the game. So, when Bo Nix gets the leash taken off and he can really be Bo Nix, which is being mobile, using his legs, he's a very different quarterback. So, yes, to that comment that I put on the screen, I absolutely agree that the play calling a lot of the time does not make sense to me. It just doesn't. And I think if we could get the play calling to make a little bit more sense, a little bit earlier in the game, these heroic football plays late in the fourth quarter wouldn't be necessary. Are they fun on the other side of it when it results in a dub? Yeah. I actually, my father-in-law, soon to be father-in-law, and my granddad, they both do the same thing. They record every Nuggets and Broncos game. And my granddad is also a huge West Virginia fan. Go WVU. It's in my blood forever. But they both do the same thing. They record the games so that they know how they end. And then depending on how they end, they go back and they watch the games. Not all games. There's a lot of games they do watch live. But most of which it's because their bedtime is like past and they're like, I am not staying up till 10 p.m. to watch the Denver Nuggets. Sorry, I'm just not. But it's a pretty smart system because if you got to watch the Giants game back knowing that it was a dub, it would look like it would be the best game of football you've ever watched. But living in it in real time, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. It's not enjoyable whatsoever at all. So it's just quite interesting to see just how this Broncos team is forced almost to be heroes in the fourth quarter. But in my opinion, a lot of that is preventable. It really is. And maybe it's just going to take a couple more of these games. And sadly, it might take a loss for Sean Payton to be like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board. Let me figure out what worked in all of these games and what didn't work in this one. And it's like, yeah, or just look at the first three quarters versus the fourth. What was the difference maker? It was Bo Nix. What was the bigger difference maker? You let Bo Nix be Bo Nix. That's what was different. So, guys, I'm sweating. Like, seriously, it's like hot in here. And this is like a mesh shirt. Woo! The Broncos, guys, they get me like all fired up being a Broncos fan. But seriously, let's get to the positives here really quick before I have to get out of here. I really am supposed to be kind of logging off here in just a bit because I've got some things going on today. That being said, let's go like 10, 12 more minutes of just chatting with. So if you guys have any questions or comments that you want me to flash up on the screen, now is the time. Liv is fired up. I'm always fired up, you guys. I got to be maybe one of the most passionate Denver sports fans out there. And the only reason I say that is No, maybe that's the wrong way to put it. There's a lot of very passionate sports fans. I'm talking people that get tattoos on their bodies. I'm not there yet. What I will say is I'm probably one of the more passionate media members that covers Denver sports because I'm not afraid to let my fandom show. That's one of the things they teach you in broadcasting. When you're covering something, you can't be biased. Oh, yes, I can. I absolutely most certainly can be biased here. And the best part is I'm also not like I am a homer, but I'm also not afraid to call my teams out when things aren't going well. I'm not afraid to look at something and go, that wasn't cool. Didn't like that. Holding teams and players and coaches accountable. I'm not mad at it. In the same way, I want you guys to hold me accountable. There's been times I've been very wrong about Denver sports. And I will say I've kept my energy pretty much the same with this Denver Broncos team, which is that I don't think Bo Nix is the problem. I think it has more to do with the play calling, and I stand by that. And our defense, honestly, in a lot of games, deserves better. That's it. Our defense has done a really great job this season of keeping us alive in these games when we really had no business of staying alive in these games. So those are kind of the things that I'm like, yeah, I stand by those things. I feel very confident in that. But that being said, this Broncos team right now is 7-2. 7-2. They are sitting at the top of the AFC West. We've got the Chiefs, who are now tied right now, just got the ball back versus the Buffalo Bills. 12 minutes left in the second quarter. Okay. This is actually a fantastic comment. How do we get Nate to not wear the capri pants in his content? You don't. Nate, I'm pretty sure Nate Jackson is going to do whatever he wants, and he should. Actually, he should do whatever he wants. What's wrong with capri pants? I actually think they're making a comeback, guys. I'm a woman. I know fashion. Capri pants are back. I actually just bought an outfit that had capri pants. So you're not going to get me to tell him no. Keep living your best life, Mr. Nate Jackson, and wear those capri pants. Yes, you better. Okay. So the Chargers, is it a Chargers bye week? I believe it is, right? I think we've got ourselves a Chargers bye week. Okay. So the Chargers are what? 4-2? Let me check on that. Let me make sure I'm not just spewing stuff I have no business talking about. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, they're 6-3. My apologies. Okay. So they have one more loss than we do. That's right. So if we would have lost today, we would have been tied with the Chargers, but we didn't lose today. No, we did not. We are 7-2. Chargers are 6-3, and the Chiefs, if they win today, I believe will also be 6-3 as well. So the Chiefs technically right now are third in the AFC West. I think that has to do with the Chargers dominating in their division early in the season. I mean, they dealt the Broncos a loss. They dealt the Raiders a loss. They dealt the Chiefs a loss. So the Chargers really, when it comes to division matchups, did a really, really great job early in the season to put them in a great spot. So, you've got the Broncos at the top of the AFC West right now, arguably one of the most competitive divisions, if not the most competitive division, okay? A well-coached division. My gosh, you've got Harbaugh, you've got Reed, and listen, Carroll, I know that the Raiders have a lot of stuff going on that's not in their favor, but still a very, very competitive division when you look at just the head coaching, okay? Broncos at the top, giving themselves a little bit of wiggle room, still. No matter how today plays out for the Chiefs, they still have another loss that the Broncos don't have. So the Broncos will still remain at the top of the AFC West, which is huge. And if you look at the remaining schedule for a team like the Chiefs, because let's be real, the Chiefs have been fired up. The Chiefs getting their receivers back where they were able, Patrick Mahomes was able to spread out the field, really made a huge difference. And I hate that for Broncos country, but it's the truth. They really did become a completely different team when their receivers came back. So here's the deal. Here's something we keep our eyes out on, right? There's a lot of momentum working in the Broncos' favor right now. It's the truth. But the other truth of the matter is that the Chiefs today could win. They'd be sitting at a nice and pretty 6-3. Then they've got a bye week next week while we take on the Raiders in a Thursday night football game. That next Sunday, they play the Broncos. The Chiefs play the Broncos in Denver. So they're going to have rest. Now, rest doesn't always bode well for the team, right? It's not always a foolproof system where if you're more rested than the other team, rest versus rust, right? Is that bye week going to cut into some of the Chiefs' momentum? As a Broncos country member, I sure hope so. So you just kind of worry a little bit about the Chiefs having a bye week could either work really well for them or it could cut into their momentum. Do the Broncos strike me as a team that's going to feed off of the momentum that they're riding on right now? Yes, actually they do. They do. I think that it is going to be beneficial for them if they get another win on Thursday night. They're now 8-2. Chiefs get a bye week. They're going to have a little bit of rust, and the Broncos are going to be charged up, ready to go at home. I like it, actually, for this Denver Broncos team. So, Joe Alt got carted off the field with an ankle injury by the looks of it. What happened? Did you see what happened? So after the Broncos, the Chiefs have to face the Colts. The Colts are a good football team, guys. They really, really are. Did the Colts lose today? No. Wait. Did they lose today? Hold on a second. What happened with the Colts today? Oh, they did lose today. Oh, wow. Oh, so the Colts are 7-2, just like wait, are they 7-2 or were they, 7-2. Same record as the Broncos. You guys, the AFC is crazy right now. Goodness sakes. Did you know, by the way, like that's what really made me realize how crazy this NFL season is right now. The Ravens were still the favorite before they took on the Miami Dolphins on Monday or Thursday. I'm sorry, Thursday night. They were still the favorites to win their division. The Ravens have been hot garbage, and they were still the favorites to win their division. That's how you know this is just a season that's like makes my head spin, to be honest with you. So the Chiefs, let me go back to the Chiefs really quick. The Chiefs are up 10-7 on the Buffalo Bills right now with 9:27 left in that second quarter. We know that the Bills, what they're capable of. We know Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes, you leave any time on the clock and they're good for it. Oh, I hate seeing injuries, guys. But this Chiefs team, let's get into this Chiefs team for just 2 seconds here. So they've got that bye week, then they take on the Broncos, then they take on the Colts, who have been pretty red hot this entire season. Then they go to Dallas and play the Cowboys. Listen, the Cowboys defense needs some work, but Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level. So if it's just a shootout the entire time, there's a world where the Cowboys upset there, okay? Then you've got the Texans. Texans defense might cause some problems for Patrick Mahomes. That's a good defense. Then this is the remaining schedule for the Chiefs. Chargers, Titans should be a dub. Broncos, Raiders. There's a world where the Chiefs get dealt some L's towards the later part of their season, right? The Broncos schedule, however, they've got the Raiders for a Thursday night football matchup coming up this coming Thursday, right? Then they take on the Chiefs, another division game, both at home. Home field momentum, a home field advantage, a little altitude in there, riding on some momentum that they've had all season. It's good stuff. Then they get a bye week. Then they go to the Commanders. That's a good game. But then they've got the Raiders, the Packers, the Jags, the Chiefs, the Chargers. So the Broncos' remaining schedule isn't a walk in the park either. Do I feel super scared going against a team like the Jags? Not really, not with this defense, especially seeing Trevor Lawrence. As much as I've wanted Trevor Lawrence to be that guy, I just don't know. Surtain, yes, we're hoping Surtain is back. Hopefully this would have been week 1, 2, 3. They've got a bye week in there 4. So maybe you get Pat Surtain back for the Commanders game following the bye week. That would be great. That would be really, really great. And then as for that Chargers remaining schedule, let's get into that before I do have to get out of here. Yeah, I knew you meant Commanders. You're good. I totally knew it. Once you said Cowboys, I was like, I think he means Commanders. Chargers remaining schedule. They've got the Steelers next. Okay. Then they've got the Jags. Then they've got a bye week. Then they've got the Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos. Chargers kind of have a tough little schedule going on. So to me, if you're looking at the AFC West as it stands now and the remaining games, I think Chiefs Broncos, it's going to be a really close battle. And the Chargers are a good team. They could beat any of those teams that I mentioned. But I just think as long as this Broncos team just needs to keep riding the momentum that they've got and building on it, right? I don't want to see backwards steps. I think in this game today, we saw steps backwards compared to last weekend versus the Cowboys. Now, Is that saying a whole lot? Maybe not, because the Cowboys their defense, I'm pretty sure I could probably score at least 3 touchdowns on that Cowboys defense. That's saying something because their defense is rough. But you just want to see this Broncos team build. As long as they can build off of what they've done, I think they're in a great spot. Keep riding that momentum and keep building on that momentum. And that is going to put this Broncos team in a pretty great spot because they have a doable remaining schedule. Doable for sure. But those division games in the AFC West, anything goes. Honest to goodness, anything goes. So it's my hope and my prayer that facing the Raiders on Thursday night and then also seeing the Chiefs right after that, it's just keep your head down, stay focused, stay healthy, and just do what you do, especially that defense. Because that defense is enough to rattle any quarterback. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes. We've got a really great defense. The best pass rush duo in Cooper and Benito alone, right? And there's a lot of guys that make really big defensive plays on this team. So, guys, we're in a great spot. It's so fun to be a Denver sports fan right about now. It really is. And how refreshing to be a member of Broncos country and to feel like you can smile on a Sunday. I mean, should I pour a little glass of wine or something? Like, should I enjoy my Sunday? This is a new feeling for me, guys. This is a new feeling for all of us that we can just enjoy our Sunday now. They got the dub. They made it happen. They figured it out. That seems to be their mojo right now. Fourth quarter, figure it out. Fourth quarter, just do it like Nike. Honestly, it's like they just, in their brain, they just go, all right, it's go time. And I love it. I love it. Keep smiling, Liv. Have a great week. Yeah, you guys, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. Yeah, I really, really appreciate. Hold on, let me quickly text 1 second. Guys, hold on 1 sec. We're trying to see if we can maybe get into and speak for. Sorry, guys. This is crazy. Okay. I need to wrap things up here pretty soon and go handle the rest of my business for Sunday. But I also did not have success when it comes to the betting thing this weekend. I had Nico and I had Pat Bryant to score touchdowns in this game. And by the way, Pat Bryant, he was getting some good looks. I think this is a good guy that eventually will become pretty reliable and pretty, sturdy for Bo Nix and this offense and how it runs. I really, really do. So, yeah, I feel really good. I mean, again, honestly, I think if you guys have ever sports bet before and you like placing bets like I do, just here and there, it's not like your entire life, but you enjoy it. Bryant seems legit. Exactly my point. And that's exactly why I put money on him today, because I just felt like he's becoming that guy for Bo Nix. And I still think he is, despite me not, cashing my ticket. I don't really care. At the end of the day, that's what I was going to say is if you guys sports bet, of course, we'd love to hit our sports bets. But at the end of the day, my main and number one priority is that the Broncos get a dub, and they did. So hence why you don't really see me looking too upset right about now, because as long as my team can get the dub, I don't really care about the ticket. I really, really don't. It does not matter to me at all whatsoever. So yeah, Pat Bryant, I think, is going to really be a super reliable guy. And I got to say, honest to goodness, Troy Franklin is doing his damn best. He is. And he has improved significantly in my opinion from last season. Last season, some of the drops he had were just like, oh God, you cannot have this, especially not on a Sean Payton team. You can't. Like, you are not allowed to do stuff like that. I will say, Troy Franklin seems to be Bo's go-to outside of Cortland Sutton. And a lot of the times it's like half on Bo, half on Troy. I'm not willing to put all of the blame on Troy Franklin for some of the catches that he doesn't get his hands around. But there are times where I'm like, oh, you should have caught that. He's also being defended pretty well. I think they know Troy Franklin. It's always a deep ball to Troy. That's the guy. He's airing it out to Troy. So I think the defenders know Troy Franklin has to be a priority when you're taking on this Broncos team. And therefore he's smothered a little bit. But I think if he can start working through that and just really start grabbing grabbing despite who he's up against. He's going to be a real threat for sure. I like the wide receiver room. Don't think we need a trade there. I would agree with you. I think don't mess with what's working here. It's almost like you don't want to disrupt what's happening here because there's a lot of good things that you like and there's a lot of good energy and mojo and momentum right now that you like, but sorry guys, I'm just messaging someone really quick. There's a lot of good energy and mojo and things that you like about this team right now. So it's almost like if it's not broke, don't fix it. That being said, there are still broken things in this Broncos offense. So there is some things that need to be fixed. I just don't know if fixing them right now feels like the right answer. But they have what until November 4th? 2 days? 2 days? Is that am I thinking correctly about the deadline here? I'm pretty sure they got 2 days to make a move. So if nothing comes before Tuesday, then I think Sean Payton is kind of thinking the same way I am, which is let's not disrupt what's happening here because we're finally finding good moments and good opportunities for some of the guys we do have, and they're making bigger plays and therefore giving Bo Nix more opportunities. So you almost don't want to mess with it too much. But one more minute, guys, and I'm getting out of here because I have got to get going. But I'm really, really happy to have been able to do this post game with you guys. This is my first Broncos post game this season. We've had so many new faces involved in Guerilla Sports that are so good at what they do and so wonderful. And so they've been kind of taking that on. If you guys were following Guerilla Sports last season, I did a lot of the post games, if not all of them. Really fun, enjoyed that, but it's always good to get some new faces. But whenever I get the chance and can fill in for somebody, I'm happy to do it. It's always fun to sit and chat with you guys, especially coming off of a dub. If it's not a dub, it's typically, there's actually usually more to talk about when they lose. I will say that. But it's less fun. It's less comfortable. These types of conversations I would much rather have where we're, picking apart some of the things that they can improve upon because we do know this Broncos team still has room to grow. And I think that's the most exciting thing. I'll leave you with this. It's a really fun position to be in when your team is riding a 6-game win streak, top of their division, arguably one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL, and they still have things they can improve upon. That's a really great and exciting feeling because despite where we're at, we still have quite a few weeks left of football. So a lot of things can change. A lot of things can happen in, between now and the end of the regular season. So it's a cool spot to be in to have a Denver Broncos team that is playing at a very high level, mostly in the fourth quarter, and winning football games. And there's still a lot that they can fix and grow on and build on. So it's a really cool thing to have. But okay, I am going to get out of here, you guys. I've got to go handle some things today, but I really appreciate you for hanging out with me, sending you all my love. Shout out to our infield reporter, Brandon Cristal, who is in Houston, getting us all of our post-game presser footage. Those will be released to our YouTube as well as our X and all other social platforms. So make sure you're following Guerilla Sports on all things social to check out what Coach Sean Payton has to say, what some of the players have to say following that game, and maybe they're going to give us a little preview of what's to expect come Thursday night versus a division rival in the Raiders. So shout out to BK for getting us covered out in Houston. I'm Liv Moods signing off for now. This has been a wonderful post-game live reaction show with Liv Moods. Thank you tons and tons for hanging with me. Go Broncos as always, and we'll catch you guys for some more coverage following Thursday night versus a division rival in the Raiders. See ya.